It's quite special to hear God's word read, especially when it's read well. I've been in the car recently listening to a version. I don't actually know who's reading it, but he's got this deep voice. And there's something in the midst of everything that's going on at the moment, to hear the words of God brings a peace to us. Before we hop into the scriptures this morning, just wanting to let you know that there's, if you don't have a Bible or are interested in the story of Jesus, there's a couple of things, as you see in our little handout there this morning, that you could grab on your way out. This is a Gospel of Luke, and it's the essential Jesus. Just want to read the beginning here to you. Welcome to the story of the most extraordinary and influential man who has ever walked this planet, Jesus. The biography of the Gospel of Jesus' life that you're about to read was written nearly 2,000 years ago by a doctor named Luke. It's been speaking to people of every background, race, and situation ever since. Reading the Gospel of Jesus is an extraordinary opportunity to go back to the real Jesus, the essential Jesus, and to discover something new about yourself, about the world, and about God. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't read the Gospels, the story of Jesus for a long time, it might be worth doing that this season that's coming. If you don't have a place to do that, there's a couple of resources out the back that you're welcome to grab as well. So I was coming up the stairs, the thing here. I was looking at this cross up here. For those of you who've been around here for quite a while, you'll know that this cross has been on this stage at Easter for a long time now. But there's a sense in which this Easter feels a little bit different. I kind of wish we could kind of go back to last Easter or the one before, because the world feels a bit different at the moment, doesn't it? It's a world that is somewhat unusual for us. It's unsteady. It's volatile. We don't know what's coming around the corner. It feels difficult. And it feels unsettling. Think of Jesus' words that he told his disciples. He lived in a world that was quite unsettled and unsettling. And he said these words, he said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." I'll give you rest. I'll give you peace. It's a pretty common feeling at the moment, the feeling of heaviness, heavy laden, weariness. I haven't actually introduced myself. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the teaching pastors here, and it's really good to be together here this morning. If you're part of our regular body who meets here, I want to welcome you. And if you're visiting with us here for the first time, I want to welcome you today as well. This is a special time for the church as we gather together and remember Jesus giving his life for us, and in a couple of days that he rose again. Christian Church gathers together to pray at this time as well, to pray for peace in the world, and we certainly need that. The reality about the world that we find ourselves in, the life that we find ourselves in, is it kind of has this principle or this rule to it, and it's that if we want peace, we need power. So this world is such that if we want peace, we need power. And the reason for this is that humanity is created, we're created and we are amazing creatures. And we can do amazing good, and we can love, and we can be generous, and we can think of others. But we also have this streak in us that is not like that at all. It's selfish, and it can think only for ourselves, and it actually has a propensity for evil as well. And because of this reality, because we are a people who have so much goodness about us, but so much brokenness as well, if we want peace in this world, it comes through the exercising of power. We see this every day, actually. We are so immersed in it that we don't even realize it. For you to get to church today, for those who drove, you were driving in the midst of systems of power. So you did a certain speed limit, and when you got to the red light, you stopped. And when you got to the roundabout, you waited for the person that was already on the roundabout. You see, there are rules that have been put in place by governments and those that we've put in authority. And then there's consequences that come if you don't obey those rules. And there's actually a whole group of people, police, that we've put in place to make sure that we actually follow those rules. And then there's the courts that enforce the rules and can actually sentence you and bring consequences upon you. We actually can't have peace without power. And this goes even further than that. It goes to we have a military, and basically it's you can't come to our country unless you come the right way, and if you try, we will use power to stop you. And right throughout the world, we've had these, just again and again, skirmishes between people because people are broken. And basically, there has been a lack of peace for so long throughout history because people are broken, greedy, want stuff that's not theirs. And what happens is we have these moments of peace throughout history when there's kind of one great power that kind of rises up and says, basically, stop it. I'm going to take control here. Stop it. These are the rules. And they use force, and they use power, and they use control, but they bring about a type of peace. We've actually been living through a time like that. We've been living under this time where basically the big power is America. It basically said to all the other nations, hey, stop it. And this is actually similar to back when Jesus walked this earth. There's a big empire called the Roman Empire. Historians call it Pax Romana. It was Roman peace. But peace must be enforced through power. And that power was sometimes brutal. It came with taxation. And it was a forceful peace maintained through forceful power. The tension is, and this is what the cross speaks into, it's what Jesus speaks into. The tension is that same power that can protect can actually threaten peace itself. Because the reality is that when we look at the human systems and the way we try and bring about peace is that we bring about peace because there's problems with us. But the people who are actually bringing about peace, there's actually problems with them as well. It's not as if they're separate from problems and from brokenness. And what we have is we have this peace which is fragile. We have moments of peace and then it breaks. And then someone comes in with great power and we have moments of peace again and it breaks. The reality is that power, it centralizes and then it starts to corrupt. And we've seen this again and again throughout history. As peace moves to the top and a group starts to try and bring about peace through power, it starts to get corrupted because there's brokenness that works right throughout humanity. It consumes those that they are trying to bring peace to. It just doesn't really work. There's this cycle that happens again and again and again. We're going to be looking at a line that Jesus says to one of his disciples. He pulls out his sword, and Jesus says this to him: "Put your sword back in place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword." This is actually one of the most revolutionary lines that Jesus actually speaks. What he's saying is that there is a power that comes through force and through control. And what happens, it just creates this cycle. And it comes again and again and again and again. But Jesus is going to come into there and change the way power is actually works and power is actually expressed. The disciples who were waiting for this Messiah to come expected someone to exercise their power in the way they're used to seeing power, through force, through fear, through control. They were basically looking for someone to come and make things right the way someone has always come and makes things right, by overpowering someone else. And Jesus, he comes in with a completely and utterly different expression of power. The way he expresses power is completely different. I think this is somewhat to be expected, because when there's an enormous power gap, when we look at Jesus, this is God in the flesh, that God has come. There's an extraordinary power gap between himself and all of humanity. And the soldiers and the disciples were looking at him and going, this doesn't seem like someone with power at first. The disciples were particularly confused at this time. I was sitting down on the couch the other night, and we've got a centre table. And in that table is all of our photo albums. And this is actually a picture of our cat. Josh, just the picture of our cat. There it is. This is Duchess. This is going back a long time now. This is nearly 20, no, it's more than that, more than 20 years ago. And someone brought in to church this, I think it was like a beer carton of little kittens that they found on the road. And we got little Duchess. She was like the runt of the litter. One of the things I loved to do with Duchess when she was this age is I'd sit down on the carpet, and she'd be over here, and I'd put my hand like this. And she would kind of walk backwards and then just race at my hand. And she'd like jump on it and then start like trying to scratch it and bite into it, using all her might against me. And I would kind of play with her there. Now, I think little Duchess thought that she was winning. I think she thought she was pretty tough. The reality there is that I could have just flicked her away so easily. It would be a mistake to think that I wasn't powerful in that situation, but it was power restrained. You see, that's something that we see with the person of Jesus as he walks and as he talks and as he teaches and as he lives. What we have is power refusing to do it the world's way, but power, immense power, restrained in wisdom and for our good. I don't think there's any place that we see this better than John chapter 18. John chapter 18, it says this, when this is before Jesus is praying with his disciples and before this is his arrest. It says, when he had finished, so this is John chapter 18, when he had finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kedron Valley. On the other side, there was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who had betrayed him, knew the place because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers. You might have seen some of these images in some Jesus films where the soldiers kind of come with the high priest. And this detachment here, this isn't just a small group of soldiers, this is an enormous group of soldiers. Often this represents 600 soldiers. So it's a large number, not necessarily 600, but there are hundreds of soldiers coming here. And it's not just because they're going to arrest Jesus, it's because they're expecting that there could be an uprising, that if they take this leader of this new movement, that there may be some significant trouble. So they come with extreme enforcements. So they come in, and he's guiding some soldiers, some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, he went out and asked them, "Who is it you want?" They said, "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. And I love this response that he gives. This is a pivotal moment. He says, "I am he." When he said this, when he said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Could you imagine all these soldiers, these powerful soldiers standing there? And Jesus says, "I am he." And they fall to the ground. Gives us a little bit of a glimpse that there is an immense amount of power in the person of Jesus that's being restrained here. That "I am he" here, the "he" is actually an addition in the English, just to help us know what's going on, but it's actually "I am." If we go back to the Old Testament when Moses was before God and he said, what should we call you? And he says, "I am who I am." This is Jesus making a claim here. He's speaking. He's saying, the one who created everything, I am. And they fall back. Again, he asked them, "Who is it you want?" Jesus of Nazareth, they told Jesus. "I told you I am he. If you are looking for me, then let these men go." I wonder if they wouldn't have let them go if they hadn't just fallen back at a word. I wonder if they kind of just went, "Okay, we'll take you." This happened so that the words he had spoken would be fulfilled. "I have not lost one of those you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, he drew it and he struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. We have this intrusion straight away of the old method again, of power that's expressed through might and force and fear. And he picks up the sword, which is a real expression, a symbol of that power, and he does damage to this guy's ear. And Jesus, he's giving us a picture here. Everything is about to be turned around by what Jesus is doing. And he comes up to that guy, puts his hand on his ear, and restores his ear. And Jesus commanded Peter, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup that the Father gave me?" This is restrained power. This is Jesus with all power in his hands, laying it down for a purpose. This story isn't so much, the Easter Friday isn't so much a tragedy, it is a plan being worked out for God for the good of his people. It's an accomplishment. Then the detachment of soldiers with the commander and the Jewish officers arrested Jesus, and they bound him. He says in other places that he could have called down legions of angels. He is not worried. He is not concerned. He is not being taken advantage of. He is fulfilling his plan, the plan of the Father to save us. This is power restrained. He goes to the cross. And as we heard Julia reading before, there was people mocking him and soldiers treating him atrociously. He had the crown on his head. He had his hands nailed to the cross, his feet nailed to the cross, sword in his side. Jesus is about to invert everything. He's about to change everything. He's about to use the power of evil and death and totally absorb it and then use it to destroy itself. One of the things that I love most about, there's a word here. It's right after Jesus, he's on the cross. He's there for a while. And at the very end, in John chapter 19, he says, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. You know, that word, "it is finished," it comes from just one Greek word. It's not multiple words, it's just one Greek word. It's that word up there. Tetelestai. I can't remember it. Tetelestai. That's what we'll call it. It has, lovely. This has a number of meanings to it. When Jesus spoke these words, he was bringing up a number of different meanings. It has a commercial meaning, kind of in the marketplace. When you would go and you'd buy something, and you would have a debt for something that you'd bought, this word would be marked at the bottom of it once that debt was paid completely in full. I love the way that Jesus, he speaks these last words and they just have such meaning to them, so that the debt is completely paid. It's also a word that was used in the justice system when a judge would come and there would be a crime that would be done and he would make a judgment, and then there would be something that would have to be done and or a penalty that would need to be paid. Once this penalty was fully paid, this word that Jesus spoke would be used. So we have debt fully paid, the justice fully satisfied, and then it would also be used in this third way, and it was in military campaigns. It was in battles. When at the end of the battle, all was said and done, all the enemies were completely destroyed, overcome, and your objectives were completely fulfilled, this word would be said. This is extraordinary. Jesus at the end, he says, "It is finished." The debt has been completely and fully paid. Justice has been completely served. And the victory is full and complete.